Heisler. Here. Kinsella. Holt. Schmidt. Bridgewitz. Here. Randall. Here. Anthony. Here. Davidson. Here. Silsby. Here. Hayden. Seibert. Here. White. Here. Galletti. Musgrove. Here. Orland. Schneider.
Here.
Okay, Alderman Priscilla called and had a family emergency tonight, and Alderman Galletti sent an email. He was unavailable to be here tonight. So they're both excused. At this time, a roll call of department heads.
Police Chief Bill Clay.
Here.
Fire Chief Tom Ford.
Here.
City Attorney Garrett Horn.
Garrett will be here. He just texted me. He's coming from another meeting, running a few minutes late.
Kim Vaughn.
Here.
Royce Carlisle.
Here.
Jamie Maker.
Here.
Tim Gregowitz.
Here.
Jim Schneider.
Here.
Leander Spearman.
Here.
Emily Foltz.
Here.
Chuck Schaefer. Bob Sabo.
Here.
Debbie Belleville.
Here.
Mike Parks is here tonight for Chuck Schaefer. I think that's everybody with the staff. I think they're all here. You've got a few extra ones. Dave Klingler's even here tonight. This is once every 3-year appearance.
My 6th in 44 years.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I would ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we go any further, I'd like to remind everyone there's a few new faces here tonight that explanation of our disaster procedures. If for some reason we had to leave the council chambers for a fire type of nature, we would ask that everybody would leave calmly and collectively and go out the front door and proceed across the street so we were away from the building. And we ask for everybody to please, if possible, congregate in front of the St. Clair County Courthouse sign up front, so we can kind of make sure that, you know, people that you know are here, we can get accountability. So if there would be any severe weather ever, and after it hits 60-something today, who knows what the next few days happens up and down, this crazy weather, we would ask you to follow the signs out the door, follow the staff, and we'll lead you downstairs, down the steps. There is an elevator, as long as the power doesn't go out, the elevator's free game until that point. But there is a area downstairs that we feel is very safe in the case of severe weather storms. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. There's no public hearing this evening. I will ask that we conduct public participation. Ask that we do it in a very respectful way. I will ask that whoever would like to speak would raise your hand. When I call on you, you proceed to the microphone, give your name and address, and keep your comments to about 2 to 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a nice amount of time. So if anyone this evening would like to participate in public participation, not to say we have to. Yes, sir, in the first row.
125 Lucia Lane, Shiloh, Illinois. First thing I asked at the last meeting was that you conserve the documents that were going to be destroyed at the housing authorities. You're talking about a 5 by 5 foot footprint, 8 feet tall. At the same meeting, you voted to destroy the documents. And within 45 minutes, this city voted to purchase a 40,000 square foot park. Didn't have enough room for the 25 square foot of documents, but you had enough money to buy that property. You know, destroying documents is, if they're ever needed in the future, you can't get them back. It's kind of like the death penalty. Second, the city's always broke. Constantly comes after us for more taxes and fees. Our infrastructure is deteriorating. Hell, we don't even have a new pool now for the kids. But you know, you got $18 million to refurbish the King's Castles on 6th Street and here. You know, and it's done on the backs of the peasants. We, the peasants, are a little bit tired of this. And last, you have an ordinance tonight that you're probably going to vote through, 7750. It's a citizen censorship ordinance. You can't take 3 minutes from us every 2 weeks. And you guys have thousands and thousands of minutes that you can use against us during the course of the month. We, the people, have the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, including the First Amendment, on our side. You cannot abridge our freedom of speech, and we have a right to redress our grievances. You can't sacrifice the Constitution for so-called civility. Now, if somebody has a problem with what I say or anybody else says in this audience, you can sue us for libel or slander. We use obscene language, you can throw us out. But you're telling me that I can't say that if somebody here lies to me, or steals my property, or you violate the Freedom of Information Act or the Open Meetings Act, that I can't pick out that person, that I have to address everybody as a whole? That's not the right thing to do. This ordinance is intimidating on its face. There are people that will not even show up because of what this ordinance says in it. You will not silence us. You will not intimidate us. And it will be the greatest of all honors if I was to go to jail trying to uphold the Constitution of the United States. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Michael Hackberg, 701 Centerville. There's 2 business agreements in tonight's agenda, and in looking at the detail of those, I've noticed that the sales tax exempt funds that the companies will be receiving has been exempted from the penalty section. So should an event that they fail to meet their obligations, the taxpayers will not recover that money. I asked that the sales tax exemption be included in the penalty section of those agreements. Also, on the ordinance 7750, on 2-2-1, subsection A, subsection 7, reading of the minutes. May I suggest that this be changed to approval of the minutes, unless, of course, you plan on having the clerk read the minutes during the next council meeting. And finally, I will have to say that in the last 2 weeks, we've had 4 snow events, and I'm very pleased with the efforts that the street department has been doing to clear the streets. Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Back row.
Stuart Leonard, 318 South 29th Street, Belleville. I wasn't even going to say anything tonight, but I got riled when I found out that they're trying to limit our freedom of speech here. I guess, like Rick said, you can't even handle 2 or 3 minutes of somebody, a citizen's comments. Now, that's a sorry state of affairs. And also, I'm opposed to this, well, it's too late now, but buying this bank building for probably overpriced, like Belleville does everything else, pays way too much for something. I think a custom-built police station right there in the old 6th Street garage is a good location, and you could probably build one just exactly what you need You don't need it, and it'd be cheaper and simpler to build a custom-made police station instead of cobbling together something to this 6-story stupid-looking building, all I got to say. And it's already got tenants in it. They're paying $60,000 or $70,000 worth of property tax. Lindenwood's already bought up about 50 pieces of property that took it off our tax roll, so where's it gonna end? Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else this evening? Hearing none, I will close public participation. This time, we have a presentation, and I will ask that the ladies, I guess, and gentlemen, are you included, or you just their bodyguard? The ladies of the National Society of Daughters of the American Revolution, the Belleville chapter, will present a quilt wall hanging in honor of Belleville's 200th anniversary. And if you would come forward, I'll come down to the front and we'll graciously accept this beautiful work of art. And failing to show the public here. Okay.
Good evening to everyone, Mayor Eckert, members of the City Council, citizens of Belleville. My name is Gail Evans. I am the regent of the Belleville chapter of the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And we are here this evening to present to the city a wall hanging to commemorate the city's 200th anniversary. It was made by our daughter, Katie Dial, who volunteered, designed, and created the whole work. And it's actually locations and logos of places and
Landmarks.
yeah, landmarks that have been in Belleville, kind of come and gone, and for the last 200 years. The DAR chapter has been in the city for 98 years. We're going to be having our 100th birthday in 2 years. So we're very pleased to do this. And Katie, would you like to say anything about it?
Well, you have to understand, I am a transplant here from the Air Force, so this is what a visitor in the area thinks is historic. If I missed anything,
You did
I'm
pretty good.
sorry.
You did pretty good. I wouldn't have known you were visiting. I'd have thought you were a hometown girl.
No, but the blocks in the corner is called the Illinois block. So I figured using Belleville's colors and landmarks and then the Illinois block, it kind of all worked together.
Well, ladies, we appreciate this. We'll get it framed. We'll have it placed, whether it's in this room or a very noticeable place where the public can see and appreciate it. This is a great step. I know this year we're going to see a lot of people giving back to the community, and we appreciate your organization, the Daughters of the American Revolution, to present this to us. This means a lot, and we're excited about this 200th anniversary. It's a great time to celebrate and to kind of take stock at where we're at and move forward. So this is a great gift, and we sincerely appreciate it and accept it.
I'm taking just mistakes.
All right. Super. Hey, Chief, why don't you see if we can hang that right behind you for now, just up on those hooks.
All it has to do.
Oh, hang it.
Hang it.
These guys. I think we go right across them somewhere. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
You're right.
That work? Temporary? That was a good thought. Okay, well, we appreciate that, and that is going to be a neat beginning to many pieces of memorabilia that will be, I'm sure, shared with the city. For those who haven't been here for a while, please get on the web, Belleville200.com, and take a look at all the activities, or you can go to our website, the city's website, and get a list of all the activities. There's some neat things that are planned, and we still need a lot of participation, a lot of volunteers, a lot of sponsors, but it's going to be a fun year. This time I will go to the reading of the minutes. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to receive and file the city council, regular city council meeting minutes from February 3rd, 2014.
Motion by Alderman Heisler, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any additions or corrections? All in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have a claims, payroll, and disbursements. What's your pleasure?
Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to pay the claims, payroll, and disbursements. So moved, Your Honor.
Motion by Alderman Heisler, second by Alderman Seibert. Any discussion on the claims? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have a housing report of cash receipts fiscal year 2013-14. What's your pleasure? Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to accept and file.
Motion by Alderman Schmidt to accept and file. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Anthony. Do I hear any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Oral reports, we'll start with Alderman Heisler from Master Sewer.
Yes, Your Honor. On behalf of the Master Sewer Committee, I'd like to make the following motions.
Okay?
If there's no objection, we'll hold on, make motion one, vote on one.
Proceed.
Motion to approve the lowest bid from Tri-Ford in the amount of $17,398 for a 1/2-ton, two-wheel drive heavy-duty pickup. Number two motion to approve the lowest bid from Dave Sinclair in the amount of $29,075 for a 1/2-ton, four-wheel drive crew cab heavy-duty pickup truck. So moved, Your Honor.
We have a motion by Alderman Heisler, second by Alderman Hayden, to approve those two motions coming from Master Sewer. Any discussion on those motions? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Kinsella. Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion's carried. Alderman Silsby.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Finance Committee, I'd like to make the following motions. The first one is a motion to approve the purchase of a compact truck loader from John Fabric Tractor Company in the amount of $34,789.10 for the Parks Department to be paid over 5 equal annual installments. So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman
Second, Your Honor.
Silsby, second by Alderman Heisler. Any discussion about this first motion coming from Finance? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall. Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Alderman Silsby.
Motion to approve the Bank of Edwardsville as the city's new provider of depository banking services as of May 1, 2014. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert. Discussion. Yes, sir. Who were we with at the present? We've been with Commerce for many years.
And how many different banks have applied with the new one?
Jamie?
7.
Seven applied to the RP.
And what was the number one reason we wanted to go with the new one?
They kept the same deal as the same arrangement as we had before, which was unbelievable.
Bank of Edwardsville was the only response that applied with no fees for any services.
Which is quite a savings to the city. So we felt that was, after reviewing them all, that was pretty much a pretty clear choice. Anybody else have any questions? Hearing none, I ask for a roll call vote.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve the lease agreement renewal with Metro East Auto Theft Task Force. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Sillsby, second by Alderman Schmidt to approve the agreement. We've had this agreement for many years. It's a facility at the West End Police Station that they rent space for the Auto Theft Task Force. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve going out for bid for 11 new police vehicles for budget year 2014-15. One vehicle paid for out of crime-free housing. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Sillsby, second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
I was in finance and, Jamie said we may bid on that many, but we may not end up buying that many.
Well, I think after this week's work, we're pretty clear that this will be the number. We said that a week ago because at that time, we still had many meetings this past, since a week ago, Monday night, we've had probably 4 in-house staff meetings about the TIF budget, and we feel real comfortable now that we'll be able to afford the police department that number that they're requesting.
Okay, and, I had asked for and received just this evening, so I've been able to look over it, the list of other vehicles that the department owns, so I appreciate getting that. As long as you touched on TIF budget, when might the elements be TIF budget?
Next Monday,
I'm hoping by next month.
we're hoping by the 24th. That was the conversation we had this afternoon in my office. We're getting there. We might have this one pretty well balanced.
Will we get that by email?
We'll probably both email and have a hard copy both. We can do it both ways, right?
Yeah, I'll probably send out an email to all the when they're ready in the box. It'll be the whole budget, it's a little bit too big to email.
Yeah, okay. She's got it under control. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second to approve going out for bid. Now, let me just explain. If we don't go out for bid relatively soon and get this going, we will end up in the back seat and we won't get new cars until fall. And that's what we don't want to do because some of our cars that we're going to trade have some really high mileage and it's never fails. It's that last 6 months when they have the most repairs and it blows the budget the greatest. So, fair to say, Dave?
Yeah, they're the highest I've ever seen, and I've been here a while. We got a lot of cars over 125,000.
So we want to guess one of the reasons I'm here to ask you tonight to put on the agenda that we get going on this so that we can, in essence, we know we got to have cars. It's something we're going to have. You know, they originally requested a few more. We had to negotiate a little bit, but they're very happy with 11. Mike?
Yes, Your Honor. The vehicle we're talking about, mainly it's the crossover versus the Taurus.
It's a mix, right, Dave? It's a mix.
I'm sorry?
The vehicles is a mix of what you're getting.
This time it's all utility.
Pretty much all?
All utility. When Ford went to this Taurus-looking thing, it's essentially a Taurus, but they call it the Interceptor. They anticipated in 2013 that 15% of their sales would be the utility vehicle and the rest would be cars. It didn't pan out that way. It turned out to be 30%. They just wrapped up about 2 weeks ago. They're 2014, they're at 60% sales in utility, and they're only selling 40% of the car. It's the size situation. It's just, they're so small, you know, compared to what.
But it is the same motor and in the same drivetrain.
It's the exact same car. There's nothing different except the body that they set on top of it. It's a unibody type vehicle as opposed to the Crown Vic, which was a frame on. But we're getting better gas mileage and better performance now. The 2014 came out with a bigger engine. It actually outperforms the Crown Vic.
And the thing about it is I heard from so many of the officers, and we've had a pretty good winter to test it, they have performed wonderfully, both of those vehicles in the extreme weather.
They parked the Crown Vic to take all wheel drive.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact,
Yeah, you do.
It's parked most of the time in the winter.
Yeah, you do.
So it's the rear wheel drive is just not. So this is a good mix, and they're getting a good product. Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second to go out for bid under B number 4. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewood. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Lemon. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Dave, you can advertise. Alderman Consilla's not here this evening. Alderman Sillsby's going to make those motions.
On behalf of the Economic Development and Annexation Committee, I'd like to make a motion to approve the expansion of the facade improvement district number 3. So moved.
We have a motion by Alderman Sillsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion on this expansion?
I think it's the Reader's Digest of the, why we're expanding it, was not at that meeting.
Well, this originally started, facade improvement started downtown. We expanded it once to go out towards Lindenwood. Then about 2 years ago, Eric and Emily, we expanded it out in the west end. We talked about taking it, at that time, back over this location. We thought maybe we were, proposing too much, so we backed it off. Since, we've got some projects that are coming forth that could really use this grant, and we realize that this area has been challenged in recent years. A number of businesses have come and gone. We've had some empty buildings. We've had, as the cycle of life goes to a city, once was a vibrant restaurant row, has taken some change. So we thought that this was an extra tool that will help us in the future, and particularly even help us with the 2 projects that are coming after this tonight.
So the main goal, besides 2 projects tonight, is for us to have another.
It's another tool in the
incentive.
toolbox to try to help that corridor lift up. And our goal is to take that corridor from, don't hold me to this exactly, but roughly 46th and Main to get out there to where it touches to the Frank Scott Parkway area. That's been pretty vibrant, really. That going west has been picked up.
So there'll be consideration down the road of even expand.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we have a motion. That's pretty fair to say, guys? Okay. We have.
And the reason it's just on the one side of the street is because of the TIF.
Well, it has to, the reason you see the map there is it has to be funded by the TIF. So where the city fathers back in '86, when TIF 3 was designated, or when it was set up, some of them opted out on the north side in a couple places out West Main Street. In Ward 3 right there, they opted out. And then if you get out a little further in West End, in Ward 4, they opted out in the north side. I think today the aldermen would all tell you they wish they hadn't opted out, but that was a choice they made in a battle that they decided not to have years ago, and they carved that out. But I think if it's not in a TIF, our general fund does not have the money to afford that kind of luxury of those incentives. So everybody understand that? So with that, we have a motion and we have a second to expand this district. Roll call.
Heisler. Holt. Schmidt. Ridgewood. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Motion to approve a development agreement with TJBC Incorporated for remodeling and facade improvement at 4204 West Main. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Sillsby, second. Second by Alderman Seibert. Any discussion? Yes, sir?
Got several questions here, John. On the responsibilities of the city of Belleville, the rebate of 50% incremental property tax directly related to the improvements for 5 years. So I'm going to make sure I understand that right. That's going to be any raise of the property through the TIF from this point on, correct?
Eric, you want to address this? Because you explained it pretty well the other night. Did you hear his question about the TIF?
Right. If when the property is reassessed, if the taxes go up based on the improvements that are made, then it'll be a rebate of whatever that increase is.
So it's not half of what it is?
Correct.
In that
Any increase based on improvements.
Now, have we done any estimates in our mind of what that possibly may be?
We don't have a calculation at this point because the county, and we've run into this on a couple of other occasions. We've asked the county if they could assess it, and they said at this point they couldn't because they have to make the assessment first. and the improvements haven't been made, so they,
And quite honestly, some of the properties out of that area have recently had their taxes reassessed lower because they have been empty or they have been facing some concerns in that corridor. So right now, that particular part of the equation is like we told them, is really an unknown, and that's not really a big guarantee of any.
it may be minimal, maybe,
It could be nothing.
it could be nothing, right.
On responsibilities of TJPC, investing no less than $490,000. What mechanism are we going to be using to verify that?
Copies of paid invoices and things for the,
Do they understand that and agree to provide that?
Yes.
On item B, it says create 30 jobs in the first year of operation. Item C, create an additional 20 jobs in the second year of operation. And I was looking at this agreement, the one that we're going to vote on next. The next one says create full-time equivalent. Now, these are not going to be full-time equivalent?
They are actually, confirm that after the agreement was written. But the two applications were actually submitted. One was submitted prior to the revisions to the business assistance program, which changed the definition of full-time equivalent job based on the new state statute for the enterprise zones. And the second one was submitted after with the new application. So that's the difference in the language there. But they have told me that those would be all full-time equivalent positions.
So those are in essence full-time equivalent?
Yes.
So to make sure I understood that correctly. And what mechanism will we be using to verify those jobs have been created and are staying present?
We'll request a list from the company of the position, the date of hire, and the person name on it.
And they understand that they would have to basically open up their records to allow us to see that.
Right.
I mean, is this going to be done yearly or
Once they've hired the job, once they've hired the positions, they've met that requirement.
I understand it, but if they hire 30 the first year, and then they hire 20 additional second year, they have 50. But now the third year, if they drop to 40, they're not meeting the requirements.
They've already met the requirement.
So then they could drop down to 40 and they're okay.
Potentially, yes, but
You know, I think, understand, in the restaurant business, you gear up at first because you don't know what, and I'm not in the restaurant business, but I've been doing this job long enough now, and I've listened to these folks. They have to plan and strategize what they think they're gonna need, and they may find that they need more. They may find that they've got it figured out and they're gonna be able to officially run with 40. But, you know, I think what we're looking right now, we're looking, ladies and gentlemen, at an empty building for about 6-7 years. And it's, here's an opportunity to move forward. There's no exact science to, you know.
Your Honor, I understand it. I'm asking a general question, but I'm not disputing that we all know that's an empty building, okay? But we're also talking about giving away public money, and that we have a history of not doing verifiable things, some of our past agreements, and I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to debate it, I'm not going to argue it, but that's a known fact, Your Honor, and I want to know what we're going to do in the future to verify that these things are being done, because we've not done them in the past, and that's the questions that I'm asking at the present. For example, item D, commit to annual sales tax subject to sales tax no less than $1,800,000. Now, my next question is, how are we going to verify that? Because I've been told by the finance director in the past that we don't get to see their sales tax numbers. So how do we verify that to protect the public's interest?
Eric?
we request the information from the company.
And is this in the actual agreement to give? Because apparently it wasn't in the past.
We've done it in the past before. Now, if,
Sorry, I just want to say something. The comment you said I made, any business that's out in Belleville right now, I can't just go and demand them to provide me sales. I can't get those sales from the state unless we have a development agreement where they've authorized giving them. In those cases, they do report those sales to us, but I just can't call the Department of Revenue and say, I want to know the sales for XYZ company down the street from us. They won't tell me that.
I understand. And I want to make sure that they understand.
But we've not had problems getting this information from ones like the development agreements. The ones that we're paying out, the finance department, that's been the one thing that we're not, I think the one area that we're not going to disagree that hasn't been tracked is sales tax abatement on building materials and equipment. Once they get the certificate and they purchase the stuff and the improvements are made, if their building or their business does fold, the business is still, that building has still inherited that work and that certificate. And the state now is going to start to track that a little differently, and that's been tossed around in the enterprise zone for years. They're finally just now, but we've never went back and tried to track that. That was always something we felt was impossible to do with the amount of staff that we have. But as far as any of these projects where we've given money, we've always demanded that they show, and if they didn't and they folded up, then our attorneys have filed suits against them. And in many cases, we've recouped all or near all the money that we were owed.
Could you offer some specific examples of that?
Well, they can have it for you, Your Honor, when I got a few more things.
Okay. I'll
On
call you, Mr. Ham.
item 4, signage. What's it going to say on the sign?
Main Street Brewing Company?
No. The signage, read aloud, the city of the place on the premises sign indicating financial assistance has been provided by the city of Belleville. What's it going to say on the sign?
that's, we haven't actually put any of the signs up in many years, but for a time, we did put signs up in some businesses that said this project was assisted by the City of Buffalo's assistance program. So
Just like
I
this
just want to state my concerns on that. It's a past we had mayor, clerk, and treasurer. We got same mayor, and we got a new clerk, and we got a new treasurer. And there's signs out there that have the mayor, clerk, and treasurer's name on these signs. Progress brought to you by the City of Belleville. If there's anybody's name that should be on there, it should be the 45,000 citizens that are paying for it, and not just 3 people.
It's kind of hard to put 45,000 names on the sign.
That's why it should be courtesy of the citizens of Belleville instead of individual names. The next question, I'm glad the city attorney came in. Items, explain current with payments, agree to pay in full city to City of Belleville any outstanding invoices containing the name and names of individual company and or corporation receiving said inducements. Is that basically stating that all past debts for that property has to be paid up?
it's really more related to sewer bills or any other bills that they've had.
Right, so all current past.
In this particular case, the same people own the property, but if it had been a situation where somebody had just bought the property and there were past liens or anything, they would all have to be taken care of before we would proceed forward. But now, they would have to too if they had any, but that's not the case right now. Okay? Alderman Schneider.
Yes, well, first of all, there's been so many questions about these agreements. All of the things that we've talked about needs to be changed. I don't see how we could approve them tonight unless the attorney thinks that's okay. And whereas on the building supplies for the tax thing, when it says building supplies, is it just for the building, or is it going to be, okay, these are restaurants, will it be for plates, cookware?
No, it's anything, it's only fixed equipment, and it has to approve, there's a list, they have an approval list.
It's identified in the enterprise zone statute, and things are basically permanently fixed to the building.
I think we need to start asking for copies of this.
as I've been working on agreements that businesses have closed, I have another one tonight I'm gonna wanna talk about. We do not check up on these contracts. As I was told, it took Eric 70 hours to get the ones that were in the basement, and that's where I'm finding these ones that are closed, the businesses are closed up, or they have not adhered to the contract. And that is what's wrong. We're giving taxpayers' money away, just like it's money to be given away. But this is hard-earned taxpayers' money. And if a business wants to come, I even made the comment online when this brewery restaurant thing was going. Yes, it's a vacant building gonna be filled. I was happy for that. But as I was going through a list of all these contracts, like I said, that have not been checked up on, I think we need, fine, we can, if we approve this, yes, but the little tweaks need to be made sure. And that all public funds, including the sales tax payment, be returned to taxpayers should be individuals, not needs or obligations. I don't think we should hear, well, it was tax abatement stuff, and so, no, they got that, and that is what we should hold them accountable for. It's not right, because it's the taxpayers' money that is funding these projects. And later on, when we get it into old business, I have some I want to discuss. I mean, it's just not right. We're giving all this money away.
Mr. White.
I have just a few suggestions that would make it at least easier for me to make the decision when these kind of issues come up before the council. I'd like the staff to provide the total amount of money the city's going to obligate to this business, estimated tax revenue per year that's going to be returned to the city after total tax money, a timeline for a break-even point on the money we're investing, and heck, an assessment by the staff to give me some idea of, do they really feel that this business is going to be a success? I mean, we've got people that are on this staff that are very intelligent and can formulate these different information. Personally, it would make it very much easier to me than really just looking at the numbers and trying to fumble through the tax formulas myself to try to do it.
Well, I can tell you that we have sincerely had many meetings trying to better track and streamline, and as you know, we just got the staff, picked up a staff person that we've been short for the last several years, just in the last several months. It's very difficult to do some of these things when you're always working a person or two short. They do a great job. I think we are looking at some ways to better track. I think the staff and I feel very confident that these two projects here tonight are, and everything we do is a risk. I mean, there's some risk in everything you do. There's no guarantee with, very few projects are, absolute guarantee. But I think doing nothing and letting these two buildings sit without increased improvement or without occupancy in one case would be a major mistake on the part of this council. These people are investing, as you can see in the packet, a considerable amount of their own money they either have or they are in the process of. And we believe that this really has the ability to be a catalyst to help us turn this area around. It has years ago, and it has been that many years ago, that many of us remember this to be a very, very vibrant corridor. But things change, and this area has seen change. Now, we can sit here all night and scrutinize, and I don't disagree that we should be very accountable. I don't disagree with that. But I think that these are good projects that have great potential. Can I sit here and promise you that they're going to yield everything and more that we've heard here tonight? No, I can't promise you, but I can tell you I feel pretty good about the staff, and I feel very strong that these people have convinced us in many meetings with them that they know what they're doing, that they've got a track record. Both of them have a positive track record in business, and that we believe that they are a good move forward in this corridor that needs this tender loving care and this encouragement. To do nothing in this corridor will be a major mistake. Alderman Schmidt?
Well, I just wanted to add, I'm on the Finance Committee and Economic committees, we had a lot more information on these projects about how much. I think that was how we did it. The committee then examined it and then we voted to send it on.
The information's in the packet, right?
Right, and this is two restaurants, in case anyone else wondered. On the personal road, two restaurants, there and Room Hub with, some of the employees I took it would be working with really, packaging beer and other places in that restaurant. So this could be a big enterprise there. As far as item 2, the responsibility of the city for rebating 50% of the incremental property taxes. He said his property tax might not change all that much because of his major investment is in, of that 400,000 is in equipment for the group hub. So that would not put his property taxes up, so we would not be picking back that much.
And understand, one of the things, if you read the packets, our biggest incentive back to both of these businesses, and jump in here, Eric and Emily, is an exterior work. It's in stuff that's noticeable by the citizens as they drive by, as visitors. It's going to help abutting properties. It's going to lift up property values. The majority of what we're rewarding them for, if you want to call it that, or participating with them in, is the exterior work, the facade. And to me, anytime we can lift up the exterior, now they got to do things interior-wise because that's functional and it makes people want to come back too. But these exteriors, when we can lift up the exteriors, we're helping the city, that neighborhood, we're helping that corridor, and hopefully it's going to excite some other people to do some work at their business, and normally does. Alderman Randall?
Thank you, Mayor. To just go back to what Alderman White was talking about a few minutes ago, Eric, if you wouldn't mind, if you got your calculator handy, if you want to double check me. We're looking at the remodel, the savings estimated at $22,275 on business materials there, plus the $10,000 in the facade improvement brings the total of $32,275. If the $1.8 million comes to fruition in terms of the sales revenue, then we'd be looking at $31,500 being returned to the city in the first year. So is that the type of information that you're looking at?
That's exactly what I'm looking for, and I was like to make a statement. Now, there's no way in raising opposition to this project. I would like more uniformity and transparency when they're presented to council. That's my only point.
No problem. Alderman Holt.
Okay, the water got a little muddy when Alderman Schmidt said this is two businesses. I kind of need an explanation of that.
Explaining I'm having two restaurants in one.
Could I get it from the owner, please? I don't think so here.
Yes, it is a brew pub restaurant. Our main thing is going to be the brewing. We're going to make our own beer, and then we're also going to be having a restaurant. There'll be two parts to the restaurant. One is going to be the brew pub, so it'll be a bar menu, and then one is going to be the actual dining area. So there'll be two separate menus, same building, but the dining room will be open until 9 or 10 o'clock at night. The brew part will be open until 1 in the morning with a separate menu, so we don't have to keep an executive chef on until 1 in the morning. So that's why I think that's what you're referring to, two different menus.
Okay, and my second question, I was concerned about the answer of, yeah, you only have to hire somebody to meet our checkoff. You don't have to keep them on staff for any minimal amount of time. Is that in the enterprise zone statute? That doesn't seem reasonable.
I don't think that's addressed in terms of the length of time that people have to be employed. I'll double check.
The enterprise zone is totally, the enterprise zone is, just for your information, is totally under change process right now, right?
At the state level.
State level.
Right.
So these rules will be, as they make changes, we will be inheriting them. We will be inheriting them in the near future. Alderman Steiner?
On the employees, I think this is where our contracts are very vague. They're not very, they just mean anything. So on the employment, it should state for so many years you must keep this amount of employees, and it leaves it wide open. And for the sales tax things, I think it should be up to the business to provide us with the proof that they're doing this, because we don't check up on it, and like the finance director says, she can't go to the state and ask for it, so they should be held accountable They're taking taxpayers' money to give us the proof that is stated in these contracts.
Well,
That's why we have these
one thing's
contracts.
for sure. If we see that they do all the remodeling that they say they're gonna do, and the improvements are made, it's gonna be very clear that they've reinvested very clearly in that building. When you see all the work that they've got planned, the amount of equipment in brewing equipment, the facade stuff they're talking about doing with the deck and parking lot improvements, and in the case of the next one that's up here, lighting improvements, which is makes us feel very good. It's going to be very noticeable, the improvements that are being made. And that's why I said, these are exterior improvements that are going to enhance the quality of the whole neighborhood. Alderman Hayden.
If the representatives are here, so are you, in comparison, I know they have like a microbrewer restaurant there in the historic area of St. Charles. Could that be deemed as a potential model per se of what you're trying?
Yeah, this new master beer.
Not
Just
really.
to get a better concept of what your goals are.
It'd be very similar. It's the restaurant would be more upscale, and what we're trying to do is create an atmosphere where people can really come in and see the process.
Correct.
So you're not, the processes are usually isolated. So what we're trying to do is when people walk in, they can kind of see a million rooms. You'll actually be able to see from the main street, you'll actually be able to see through the restaurant. There'll be glass on the front, and the glass that separates the restaurant from the brewery. The brewing processing part, the kegging part, and another part will be in the back. So there's three areas of the brewing process. So a lot of places you don't see that. So we're trying to make it, sort of interactive in a way. But the restaurant, there's really nothing similar. I know you're talking about Trailhead in St. Charles. Schlafly's in St. Louis and Maplewood is probably very similar with the restaurant and the more upscale food and stuff that would be presented to the customer.
Excellent. Again, Your Honor, I want to make it very clear, I'm not necessarily, as Mr. White stated, that I'm against this, but we've had a track record, in my opinion, from what I've seen, of not doing our due diligence on this. If it's a staff issue, then it's a staff issue, and we've added staff. But I also want to make sure that these people, as they're getting into this, this agreement here, doesn't state anything in particular to the specifics that I asked, and I want to make sure that these people understand that we have a right to see those documents if we want, and have proof to verify them. A private business is a private business, but when you accept public money, that changes the ball game, and I just want to make sure they understand that, and because there's going to be, I'm going to want to see better verifiability of what we're doing with these projects from here on out. I think we've been remiss in some of them in the past.
I may be clear when I meet with these companies that what would be required in these situations. So they're aware before it even gets to the committee, what would be.
And I want to say, I don't want the image to be, we've done a lot of development agreements, and the vast majority of people live up to the expectations and the ones laid out. There's been a few that have wiggled out of them, and, we probably, a couple of them, hindsight's always 20/20, we could have tailed them and monitored them and scrutinized them a lot closer. But for the most part, people have been very good. And when you think about it, look at the way Belleville has, made improvements in recent years. And there's a lot of these places that, if not for the opportunity of working with the city, they wouldn't have selected to come here. Or they wouldn't be selecting to reinvest. Both of these people here tonight are reinvesting a sizable amount of money in Belleville. And it's, the taxpayers, don't get me wrong, I'm not minimizing what we're doing here on behalf of the taxpayers. I understand that. Can't do that. Okay, go ahead.
These owners have had a business at this property
On the one that they leased out, right? When it was both,
Our very first Amarillo's we opened, we did have a with the city, yes.
but that was all met.
That was, everything was completely
Everything was
met.
met, everything was, everything was met, and that was when they, and at the committee meeting, her husband explained the whole thing. They had a fire at one of their other locations. The owners basically shifted gears, and they let staff here run this one, and they don't deny that they made some mistakes, and that was at the time that quarter started changing drastically too. And they lost sight of that one, and eventually were taking a loss on it, and they closed it. It was a business decision. But they've held ownership of that building, and even several years ago, before this plan came forth, they took Emily and I through there and made significant improvements that are not a part of this amount right now. That was done before. And they're not being reimbursed for any of that. But they've paid taxes on the building all these years. They've maintained it. It's not been one of the buildings that Bobby Sable's group has had to be out there. We have not had issues with the Emerald. They live here in town. You know, so I mean, I think they're making a sizable reinvestment in this property that I think is going to be hopefully real good for them and hopefully real good for the city.
And there was another agreement on the building with Bully Smokehouse that didn't fulfill the agreement. We got the money back.
We got the money back because we sued them. And we have sued quite a few of them that have fallen short of their city's agreements. So that's a fact. Okay, we have a motion and we have a second to approve the development agreement with TJBC Inc. for the remodeling and facade improvements at 4204 West Main Street. If there are no other questions, I call for a roll call.
Aye.
Holt.
I'm saying I with the qualification that it was based on the numbers and the information from my fellow alderman, and I appreciate that very much.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson. Silsby. Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert. White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
I would also with the stipulations that, on the tax sales and that they try to come to us when they fill out their sales tax stuff. So we have a little proof.
Motion carries. Next motion, Alderman Silsby.
Motion to approve the development agreement with Jack Pitcho for remodeling and facade improvement at 4508 West Main, so please.
We have a motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear any discussion here? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
No.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
No.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
No.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
No.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
No.
Okay, count them up.
It is 5, so we're missing 2. 9.
9 to 5, motion carries. Motion carries. Thank you for all the good questions. We move on. Alderman Musgrove.
Your Honor, on behalf of the Ordinance and Legal Review Committee, I would like to make the following 3 motions. And as a group, if there are no objections.
Alderman Schmidt, we're not supposed to be talking to the.
Point of order.
If you want to raise your hand and ask me, I'll deal with it. If there was a question there, I guess, and it should be right, but dealing with one of our clients that we're just dealing with here, okay? But, okay. The question that Alderman Musgrove is putting forward is there an objection to him reading these 3 motions from Ordinance Committee as a group?
Reading only, not voting.
You want to read them as a group and then vote them separate?
Yes, please.
Okay. Alderman Musgrove, you will make the motion. Let's just do them one at a time.
Okay, first motion, to adopt a resolution authorizing the grant of utility easement to Amaranth.
We have a motion by Alderman Musgrove. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Anthony. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt. Ridgewitz. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Silsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orland. Schneider.
First one passes. Alderman Musgrove.
Second motion to adopt ordinance amending chapter 53, sign code.
Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Schmidt. Do I hear discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt. Ridgewood. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orland. Schneider.
Motion carries. Alderman Musgrove.
Motion number 3 to adopt ordinance amending chapter 2, city council.
Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert. Discussion. Alderman Randall.
Thank you. I'd like to go to 218, public participation. Specifically, section D, repetitive public comment should be avoided to the extent practical to adoption of prior public comment. GG, agreeing with the prior speaker. Can someone help me understand what the...
Yes, during the course of the committee meeting, there was some discussion about when public comments become repetitive. And in the interest of avoiding that, it's merely a recommendation that if you have several people that intend upon making the same comment, they can just adopt what was stated by a prior speaker if they're in agreement with it. It's not a requirement, but it's just an avenue by which it can be suggested that they're free to adopt prior statements in order to avoid repetition.
So, for example, I could say, for the record, I'd like to just voice my agreement with what Alderman Heisler has stated. And yet, I'd also like to add.
Correct. For instance, in the context of public participation, if a member of the public preceded me and I agree with them, I could just simply say I adopt what the prior speaker said, and you're free to add whatever additional information you'd like.
Yes, ma'am.
Because this ordinance applies not only to city council, but also as a state subsidiary bodies. Zoning is one thing we talked about. Sometimes there may be 14 neighbors in here that all have the same opinion, and after the first one or two, it does become very repetitive. We don't want to in any way limit the public's right to speak, just try to use everyone's time in the wisest way.
But it is limited to the current meeting, is it not?
Yes.
Well, it's limited to matters on the agenda or other city business. And the example that was brought up was when there was a member of the public who came in with some concerns about street closure and detour. And although it wasn't on the agenda, it was obviously a matter of city business and it was addressed at that time. So the majority of the time it's going to be related to an agenda item, but not always. So we wanted to include that latitude.
Over there.
Sometimes somebody can stand up in public participation and talk about the county. Not what we're here. So it's something that we have to have control over. The county or the state, we really don't.
But there are occasions where we hear from members of the public and we hear the same comments from one council meeting to another. So what I'm saying here is that we're not limiting that ability to participate.
No, but we're trying to, I think the biggest thing the discussion was about being civil to each other and trying to not see hour and a half of public participation when maybe some of these mechanisms will help and people feel like, well, I want to make sure they know how I feel too, and they can stand up and say, I agree with the previous speaker and get their name on record. That in itself is a way to help expedite the meeting.
Now, how will instructions be given to that effect in the future?
What we're going to do is Garrett and I are going to draft a cover letter that goes with this ordinance. We're going to send it to each and every committee chairman for council committees as well as zoning board chairman as well as other commissions. And we're going to tell them also in that cover letter that if they have additional questions for Garrett or I about the delivery of this new ordinance, these changes, that we will work with them.
And one of the amendments is also the order of the agenda. It's section 2 of the proposed ordinance. And so those rules will be listed on the agenda so that the public is notified upon the posting of the meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to say this was not in any way intended to censor the public in any way to limit their ability to affect their own governance, or in any way for us to act like, well, somebody wants to call us a name, we should suck it up. We're just trying to get everybody to be polite. That is the only focus of this ordinance.
Well, I think that the example that Alderman Davidson gave, I think that was pretty clear for me. If somebody comes in and wants to vouch for someone's character, and then you have 30 more people that are going to basically state the same exact thing, we can get through the order of that information fairly quickly.
Okay. Yes,
So
sir.
reserve my comments when we get to ordinance 7750.
Alderman Wayne.
Just have a couple of comments, mainly in 218, public participation under B, where it says comments are limited to 3 minutes. If this is going to apply to both the council meetings and some of the subcommittee meetings, there are a lot of times that you have valid comments on issues coming before, say, the zoning board or the housing committee that really do require more than 3 minutes. I think the wording should be maybe adjusted.
I think we're using 3 minutes as the guide, and Garrett has done some research that has been,
Originally, it said it was limited to 2 minutes, and I suggested 3 because there was some case law to support that 3 was reasonable, but I understand. I think there's always discretion to deviate from that.
And there is, I'm just putting down, if somebody disagrees with one of these rules that's being enforced, and then says, well, if I went to this meeting, and you allowed so-and-so to talk for 5 minutes, you know what's pertinent, what's going on. I'm only talking about the wording, then, not the intent of it. Maybe something may have the discretion of the chair or something, I don't know what you would add, but I mean, kind of a little confused with that, I guess. So maybe.
I think our intent is to try to keep it to 3 minutes. Some committee meetings, I think, have a very much atmosphere where there's not a good dialogue and there's not a spirit of hostility in that. And I don't think the chairperson, if there's a healthy dialogue that takes a little bit longer, but I think it's when it's particularly the 3 minutes have got to when you have kind of a hostile presenter that's got some that borders the edges of really starting to become inflamed. 3 minutes is a long time for the council or the body to take that. So I think it's going to have to be a judgment thing, and we have to use discretion, just like our police officers have to use discretion. The chairman of the committees are going to have to use discretion. I don't know who was first. I think Alderman was first.
We're trying to just address the public participation portion of any meeting. For instance, you would not have said to the DAR, you only have 3 minutes. Or to someone who is coming before zoning to be questioned. That's not the portion we're trying to address here. We're just trying to address when a member of the public has the option to speak. And that's the portion we're trying to keep alive.
Alderman Davidson.
And remember, Bob, that the ideal that a committee meeting is the same as this is not. Public participation at a committee meeting, it encourages the intercourse between the public and the committee. Then the committee brings it to us. And so questions should be asked at a committee. So if the 3 minutes is like the statement, and then you can bombard with questions more. So we here at the city council can't do that out there now. It's to be done at the committee meeting. That's where that is.
I completely agree with you, yeah.
I mean, and nobody's saying that this tonight is perfect, but I think all of us from all sides of the aisle agreed that something needs to be adjusted and need to be brought forward, because we've all sat here at meetings when we've watched various people be attacked, from the mayor to some of you to whatever, and it's not right, and that needed to be addressed. Alderman Hayden.
Well, I was going to wait, but I guess I'm done. First of all, this ordinance pertains to city council meetings, though, correct? I I would like to ask city attorney, how can we kind of take that over to a committee meeting, and certainly a public hearing, where public hearing, you know, and zoning boards at adjudication processes, I think there's certainly statutes I've seen provide more liberal when it comes to addressing those bodies.
Alderman Holt really hit it on the head, that this is simply to address the public participation that's contemplated under Section 2.06G of the Illinois Open Meetings Act. And Section 1, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go out of order here. Section 2 addressed the city council meeting. And the reason we addressed it there is because the way the city council rules already define the agenda, there was a space in there for public participation. And so we went ahead and expanded this public participation within the city council meeting agenda to address those issues that were discussed at multiple ordinance and legal review committee meetings. And you can see the track changes on the second 2 pages of the document. So what we decided to do, because public body for purposes of the Open Meetings Act includes not just the city council, but also its committees and subsidiary bodies, we went ahead and added a section in chapter 2 to go ahead and apply those same rules to not just the city council, but its committees and other subsidiary bodies in accordance with Section 2.06G. This doesn't apply to public hearings that are contemplated by statute or ones that you decide to hold. This applies to public participation that you are required to afford under the Open Meetings Act at the meetings of the city council and your subsidiary bodies or your committees. And so the rules, you're required to allow this participation, and it just generally says in the statute under rules promulgated by the public body. So you're obligated to promulgate the rules, and that's where we got to this point, and we thought it dovetailed into an opportunity to recommend some rules that would improve the civility at these meetings.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Honore, you know, this city council, the committees of the city council, all of them, you know, we've adopted an ordinance, Robert's Rules of Order, which there's numerous other rules, obviously, within there that we're not even getting into here. If somebody's speaking and it seems apparent and evident to everybody here that this is something that we need to hear, then I would certainly have no objection if the mayor allowed them to go on for more than 3 minutes. Any member of this body has a right to raise an objection or point of order and call for a discussion of the rules. And if this body felt that this discussion was pertinent, we can suspend those rules to allow pertinent discussion. So I think that as far as what Mr. White is saying, I think that we have that flexibility built into it. I wanted to address some of the other concerns, and I certainly understand some of the public's concerns as far as how this is going to work for them to possibly their disadvantage. But the key point is we're changing this from 2 to 3, so we're already increasing the amount of public speaking. I served on the committee, as you know, Your Honor, that initiated this back in 1993. And I can tell you, you know, we didn't have some of those issues and concerns back then. And I am 100% for people being able to speak. But I want to make it clear to anybody out there, including those that either support me or are considered associated with me, I do not condone when it starts to be a personal attack on an individual, and this kind of stuff has to end. The other question I want to raise is under Section 1, Section 2-1-8, we've got points A, B, C, D, E, and F. F says, any speaker engages in such prohibited conduct during public participation shall be called to order by the chair. I would like to, when we get to the actual ordinance, Your Honor, amend that and add or with a semicolon, or a ruling by the chair if a point of order is made by a member of the board. In other words, if you're sitting, each of us in there, if somebody is speaking, and you certainly, Mayor, as chairman, can state you're out of order, but every one of us here has a right at the time if somebody's getting out of order to also state that we believe there's a point of order should be raised, and I would like to see that reflected in this ordinance itself.
You know, we did consider that, but I thought that that's already contained elsewhere in the ordinance. You can always do that. It's up to the council if you want to amend it to include
I'm
reference
going
to
to
the
the ordinance, I'm going to make that amendment, because I think it should specifically also, because I think, ladies and gentlemen, that we also sitting here should be aiding and assisting the mayor, and you know, you're in the bind sometimes, Your Honor, and I'll give you that benefit of doubt. Okay, you know, do it. You know, is this person getting over the edge? You know, because you're going to be the bad guy if you cut them off. And I think that these 16 members sitting here also have a role and responsibility. If things are getting out of hand, say, hey, you know, I raise a point of order. I think this is getting personal. This is off base. And I think if we work together, we can do this. But I don't see this in any way stifling the public to be able to address the city and the concerns that they want to do. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, if I'm not mistaken, we have a motion in front of us and a second, correct? It's been a while, I kind of forgot. For a motion to adopt the ordinance amending Chapter 2, City Council. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt. Bridgeworth. Randall. Andrew. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orlett. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. Communications. Is there any objections if we read these, let the clerk read these communications as a group?
Make a motion that we read A through H.
We got a motion to read all communications as a group. Do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Schmidt. All in favor of reading all the communications as a group and voting on them as one, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
A request from Southwest Illinois Colleges, Programs and Services for Older Persons, City of Belleville and Belleville Township to hold their Belleville Senior Celebration on Friday, May 9, 2014 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at 201 North Church Street. They are also requesting for the 200 block of North Church Street to be blocked off at both ends from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Barricades at Church Street, entrance of St. Luke's parking lot. The B lot will be reserved for guests, 20 picnic tables and 4 trash totes, with 1 table and trash toter placed in the back courtyard by the barbecue grills. B, request to approve the closing of East Main Street on Friday, October 24, 2014, from 4 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. from the east side of High Street to the west side of Charles Street, and the first blocks of North and South Jackson Streets, and North and South Charles Streets, for the city's annual downtown Halloween trick-or-treat event to be held from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. The event is typically held the Friday before Halloween, so volunteers and participants can be with their families on October 31st. C, request to approve the closing of State Route 159 from 8th Street to Washington Street and the first blocks of East Main Street and West Main Street from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Tuesday, November 11, 2014, for the city's annual Veterans Day ceremony to be held at 11 a.m. at the Belleville Public Square. D, request to approve the city hosting a December Business After Hours event at 510 West Main Street on Thursday, December 4th, 2014, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. and allow alcohol to be served at the event. E, request from Boy Scout Troop 12 to hold a 5K run and fun walk on Saturday, October 25th, 2014, from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. The 5K event is to be held in the Ogle subdivision and will be starting and ending at St. Matthew United Methodist Church, 1200 Moreland Drive. F, request from Belleville Main Street asking permission to hold the 2014 season of Belleville Old Town Market every Saturday morning from May through October from 7:30 a.m. until 12 noon and to extend the season to run an additional 3 weeks with an ending date of Saturday, November 15, 2014. In addition, we would like to request an option to use First Street from A Street to Main for overflow of market vendors and they will move to the parking lot north of 8th Street during Artemis Square and Oktoberfest. G, request from Buds Joe, Post 370, Catholic War Veterans, asking permission to hold their annual Belleville Memorial Day Parade on Monday, May 26, 2014, starting at 10 a.m. H, motion to approve the city hosting the March Bell Scott meeting at the Firehouse Number 4 at 1125 South Illinois Street on Thursday, March 13, 2014, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and to allow alcohol to be served at the event. January Bell Scott meeting was previously approved but canceled due to inclement weather.
Motion to approve all requests.
Second. Motion by Alderman Hayden, second by Alderman Seibert to approve all the requests from communications. Any further discussion? All in favor of these motions signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Petition this evening, I'd ask for a motion to approve the petition for annexation at 602 South 11th Street.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Hayden. Any discussion? Yes, ma'am.
When this is done, so that'll be the city limits, do they, receive city fire, city police? What
They
about
will.
sewer? Who's gonna pay the tax? Will they
Right
come
now,
into the city
they're on
sewer?
St. Clair Township sewer, so that won't change. So, that won't change. We have many situations like that throughout the city, that people are on Stuckey or St. Clair Township.
But they will still get city trash picked up?
They will have the opportunity to purchase city trash, certainly, and they will also have the city police and fire once this ordinance is passed.
Is this house at the end of a street or in the middle, or?
It's the very next property to the city limits. If you know where the old railroad tracks went, right there by Henry Robb School, it was the very first house outside the city limits, my whole life as a kid growing up there. So this is all contiguous. The properties are contiguous on actually two sides, I believe. You know, this person now works for the city and has moved into which was then his girlfriend, now became his fiancée and his wife. They live there, and he's applied for annexation. So, we have a motion and a second on this petition. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Stillsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Galletti. Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Shire.
Aye.
Motion carries. Resolution, I ask for a motion to read by title only, Resolution 3167, 3168, and 3169.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman Seibert. Do I hear any discussion? All in favor of reading those resolutions by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there a problem with reading these as a group? Go ahead and proceed.
Resolution number 3167, a resolution requesting permission from IDOT to close Route 159 for the INAD Shrine Temple Parade on May 30, 2014 from 7:30 p.m. until 10:30 p.m. B, resolution number 3168, a resolution transferring community development block grant funds. C, resolution number 3169, a resolution authorizing the grant of utility easement.
Motion to approve resolution 3167, 3168, 3169. So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert to approve those three resolutions. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. This time I ask for a motion to read by title only, ordinance 7748, 7749, and 7750.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Seibert, to read those by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any problem with reading these together? Or do you
I
want
like
to
them
separate?
separated, John.
I'm sorry?
I like them separated, please.
Like them separated. Read the for,
Ordinance number 7748, an ordinance annexing certain territory to the city of Belleville, Illinois, 602 South 11th Street.
Motion to approve ordinance number 7746.
motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Hayden. Discussion on this ordinance, roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewitz.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Silsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ordinance number 7749, ordinance amending chapter 53, sign code of the revised code of ordinances of Belleville, Illinois, as amended by portions of sections thereof.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Silsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Any discussion? Yes, sir.
Can I get the quick legal synopsis of why we're making these changes?
These were changes that arose in the course of prior litigation, and so these are just changes that I suggested based upon that litigation.
So these, in your mind, will put us in more, better compliance with,
That better stated legally, yes.
other state statutes and other court decisions, et cetera?
Correct.
We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewood.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Sillsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
Motion carries.
Ordinance number 7750. An ordinance amending Chapter 2, City Council of the Revised Code of Ordinances of Belleville, Illinois, as amended by amending portions of sections thereof.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Sillsby, second by Alderman Schmidt. Discussion.
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion to amend item F on section 1, section 2.11, and which states any speaker who engages in such prohibited conduct during public participation shall be called to order by the chair or by a ruling by the chair if a point of order is made by a member of the city body.
I just want to make sure I get it down right. Alderman Hayden, or by a ruling of the chair.
Or ruling by the chair if a point of order is made by a sitting member of that body. This body would be members of the city council, the traffic committee, and it would be members of the traffic committee, etc.
You okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we have a amendment to this ordinance. Do we have a second to that motion? Second by Alderman White. Do we have further discussion? So,
And I understand what you're saying, but didn't you say this is covered already?
Well, you have the ability to, by point of order, get a ruling from the chair already in the, within your city council rules. So this is just a reference to a rule that already exists. Yeah.
Which is whole ordinance in essence.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance with the amendment. So you're voting on the ordinance to approve the ordinance as presented to you with this additional amendment that Alderman Hayden made, providing everybody understands it. Roll call.
Okay, so we're voting on are we voting separately on the amendment, or we're voting?
Did you change your motion to adopt the amendment?
I can.
You could either do
That'd
it
be,
that way.
okay, would you agree to do that, Mr. Alderman Sillsby?
Yes.
And who made the second, Alderman? You agree to adopt the amendment? That'd be the cleanest way to do it, okay? There's not a real disagreement. It's pretty straightforward. So we have a motion and a second. Both the second and the motion adopted the amendment as presented by Alderman Hayden. Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewood.
Aye.
Randall.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Davidson.
Aye.
Sillsby.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Seibert.
Aye.
White.
Aye.
Musgrove.
Aye.
Orland. Schneider.
Motion carries. Is there any unfinished business anybody has? Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor. Did you get the items I sent you on February 3rd?
Yeah, and yes, I did. I did get them. I talked to Garrett. Some of those I think we asked, some of them I think are potential things to talk about in executive session. I'm looking for my list. Do you have it handy there? You want to go down? Is there something?
I'll give you one.
I got it. You got the thing in your packet tonight. Did you all see the thing about, he had a question about the TV. Did you all see the thing about the TV update?
I have a question. We received this letter addressed to Alderman Schneider from the Charter Communication. Why are they directly communicating with her?
I was surprised too.
Well, I think she had called and had a concern, and it got to, did you talk to Rich Peppers?
Nope.
Who did you talk, who did you
I
send this?
didn't talk to anybody.
Who'd you send your email to? Any concern this? To me?
Yes.
I had Rich Peppers contact Charter, and I told him I had the email from you. That was before I had Alderman Hayden's request, before I had this. Yours came prior to that. And Rich Peppers must have then he talked to him specifically from Charter. And Charter called back to the office and said, I responded to the Alderman's question, and I got a copy for you, Mayor, that if you want to share it with everybody else. So that's how it came about.
I just think in the future that it should be addressed to all the ultimate.
I don't disagree.
And I'm not saying that, but we don't act individually as aldermen, we act as a council.
No, I don't disagree. That was a.
I'm not saying you did, I'm just saying
No,
that needs to
it
be
was,
passed on to whoever.
your
it is. So
email got
expressed to
passed
all
on to a
of us.
staff member who talked to this guy. And I'm explaining to you how it happened, but I don't disagree with the Alderman Silsby, and I'll inform my staff that that's the best way to handle that in the future too. But the answer in your packet is that, I think he explained, this has been a unique situation. Now, I'm talking to Rich today, today's Tuesday, and talking, I think it was today, he told me that he talked to him again, and he thinks we might just be a week or two away. But once again, they've said that, but they do have, everything's fallen in place now. They just had a lot of complications getting hooked up to Lindenwood, and hopefully it's going to be, Rich's comment to me is that he thinks we're very, very close in the next meeting or two to have this on air.
And Your Honor, I understand, you know, this, I mean, we're basically allowing them to have the paying customers, and I don't think, you know, we've been told now for 4 or 5 months they're waiting on a part. I mean, if they're waiting on a part for somebody, somebody else probably would have went to somebody else by now for their services.
Well, we've already invested a significant amount with their equipment and getting everything hooked up to Lindenwood. Lindenwood's made a significant investment in their television studio. Many of you went out to see it. It's beautiful. It's extreme state of the art. And there's no doubt there's been a ton of work done. Linking up the fiber optics and making all the connections from here to Lindenwood to the charter network has been a little bit more unique than what they originally thought. So I can only report to you what I can report to you. I mean, I think that, you know, we never wanted to invest large amounts ourselves to make a TV production. I think everybody believed, and I firmly believed in my heart, this was the best way to go, and I still believe it's the best way to go. It's just taken a lot longer than what we thought. And all I can do is, you know, apologize for that, but it's not my fault.
You should be apologizing.
I'm just saying, well, okay, but at this stage of the game, you know, I guess if we don't have something here in a reasonable part of March, then I guess then Gary's going to have to make the hardball question phone call to him and say, you know, what are our legal responsibilities here? But Charter has been, and Rich says too, they have not been bad to work with. It's just they continue to run into some unique situations in trying to make this all work.
Well, this is something that, you know, the city's finally exercised on. Over 30 years we could have done this. You know, the public, and there's things that we want to do besides just putting city council meetings on.
And that's what's taken part of the time too. If it was just, you know, they're trying to get this hooked up so that they can use it for other filmings and stuff in the studio, that we can produce other things. You know, now certainly come right back in here and do zoning, but they're also looking at this for be a tool that we can, you know, do training, so we can do informational shows about police and fire, public safety type things. They see this as a much, Lindenwood and Charter see this as a much broader opportunity to provide service to our citizens. But
I'll say this, Your Honor, and for those out there in members of council, just so you know, I sent these questions to the mayor on February 3rd, and I asked that these be entered into the agenda for new old business, and I also asked if he wanted to, the staff could provide a brief update on these issues. So these are not questions coming out of the blue, just in case anybody thinks that that's what's happening here. I'm willing to give them another meeting or two, Your Honor. After that, I'm gonna ask to be back on the agenda, and I'm gonna even ask if
I
there
don't
could be a
disagree.
vote.
I don't disagree that if they don't have something here now in their, the letter you have in front of you in your packet, if they don't live up to that, then we've got to play, you know, a much, you know. we gotta have some
I'm willing to accept that. I'll move on to item 2.
Item two, I have talked in the last, since you sent this, I have spoke to,
Just so the public knows, I'm referencing sidewalks on East Washington Street, which were put in, and they are in non-compliance to the ADA laws.
and the person and their engineer had tried or were trying to get, file for, Tim, are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
They were gonna file for a, what's the word I'm looking for? Exemption, but
No, the business owner has been working with an engineer that has come up with a design that will meet ADA.
and they had to run it through IDOT, and they had to, because IDOT money was used in that project. It's been a slow process. I have contacted them this past week to 10 days since you sent this note, and told them that we had to have response. I know now, right now, snow and ice, they're not gonna pour the sidewalk today or tomorrow. But hopefully by the time the winter thaw hits, they're gonna be able to take this design they now have approved and get it done. So that's the answer on that.
Because the contractor, my understanding is the contractor is ultimately responsible to put it in right. And right now, it's not been put in right by the contractor, which is exposing us to liability. And ultimately, we're gonna have to have a resolution. I'm willing to, I'll give this another month, Your Honor. After that, I'm gonna want it back on the agenda, and I'm gonna, we may have to go to executive session, because I'm gonna request that we vote on these actions.
That's fine. Can't go to executive
Quick
session.
update, can you report on the Meredith home in relation to?
I will have an announcement, a recommendation about Meredith Home and the timeline within the next 10 days to 2 weeks. We've had some groups go through it. I am considering possibly extending the time for the RFP. I'm researching a couple things, and part of that includes, and I have not made contact yet, but I would certainly need to talk to Mr. Cook.
Okay.
And I thought I'd give him a solution.
I know that the day I was up there was a traffic committee. I know another group went through.
Right,
and
right.
From what I've heard,
That was probably the most positive experience that I've been reported back to.
Excellent.
So you're going to hear a proposal from me about some movement on this or some consideration, probably by March 3rd.
Thank you.
Okay.
YMCA Turner Building. People were asking me around what's happening with that.
He's making great progress. I'm not going. He at some point is going to invite the alderman in. I don't think it's fair that we all bombard him. He did contact me. Emily and I went through it, and Eric, we went through it about 2 weeks ago. I saw him Monday, and he told me that even in that 2 to 3 week period since we've been in there last, they have continued to make great progress. I was very impressed. I think at some point down the road, they will, invite some of us in. But he's got a lot of liability in there right now with construction everywhere. He wanted to show me and ask a few things. And like I said, I'm very
But
impressed.
you're seeing progress that would need to verify.
There's no doubt in my mind, progress is being made, and he is sticking to his word. He's moving
But
forward.
it's sticking to the timeline of development.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't pull the development out of agreement, but, folks, I hear you. But you know as well as I do, anything you remodel at your house, or if you've ever been in business, you set goals and dates, and believe me, you gotta have to understand they're all fluctuated time because of weather, because of ordering materials, because of a host of different things that happen in the real world. Now, I did not pull out the development agreement and said, okay, let's see, are you day to day? I will tell you, this man took a project that was basically, no one else had come forward with anything realistic that we could put our hands around. And he's going to save that old building, bring jobs to Belleville, and I am totally impressed with what happened here. And, you know, I don't know if it's because of litigation or just if it was fate or if it was an accident. But regardless, he's making great strides. I can tell you.
Again, Your Honor, that's the point of this, and I think discussion's good, and that's why I put this here, you know, so we can get updates. And if he needs, if he needs an extension on the time thing, I think that there would be flexibility here to do that, but we need to know this.
Well, as of right now, I don't think he's violated any agreement.
I believe it's June 1st is.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, last thing he told me, he's still shooting to be in there with his employees in May. So I think he's well on schedule.
City parking lot and Ben's crab, I assume,
Well,
we're gonna be working on that as soon as the weather breaks.
It probably within 10 days, 2 weeks, they're gonna be doing the demolition. Bobby, they got
Tentatively scheduled for March 3rd.
tentatively scheduled for March 3rd. We had that conversation this morning. There was a few glitches, but it's all, you know, we had to, you know, a few different things. This is unique because the demolition is abutted to an existing building. It's not like it's a standalone thing. There had to be some coordination of electrical and plumbing to cap some things off as we tear down this building. And Mr. Cockbright in the agreement, when Garrett fine-tuned the agreement, wanted it after Christmas, so we didn't disrupt the holidays with the parking, which we understood. So March 3rd is the tentative. You heard it first right here.
On the comprehensive plan, Your Honor, I would like to request if we could have staff with the future council packets, just give us, you know, a paragraph or two, just an update on where we stand, so we can feel that we're in the loop and know where they're standing.
We can do that. We had a very good phone conference today with the comprehensive plan team for about an hour. They're making strides, but Emily can give you some updates.
You know, we can just get a little bit of an update, just so we know where we're at, and move it all back. I think that'd be excellent. And the seventh was, you know, where we stand with the state of Illinois and payments.
No, I think you happen not to be at finance, you're not on that committee, but sometimes you come. Jamie made the statements the other night at finance. For the most part, income tax is pretty much caught up.
Yeah, they're currently 2 months in arrears.
Which is their norm.
For January and February, which is pretty normal.
Sales tax has always been on a 3-month cycle. And as long as they don't come along and whack anything else, any other use taxes or anything else, any other formulas, I mean, the state's actually, let me find some word, they're actually behaving right now, and, you know, the things that, you know, concerned us is, as Jamie explained the other night in finance, telecommunication tax is down. The only thing we can attribute that to is a lot of people probably are getting rid of their home phones. And I don't know, other than that.
Yeah, it's in consideration to look at a firm to do almost an audit on that.
And I think we need to consider
If
that.
there's any addresses that aren't paying the tax, you can hire firms that dig into that and then get a contingency fee based on what they find. So that's one idea being thrown around right now. But that is probably one of our revenues down most significantly, about $300,000 in the general fund.
Okay?
Right, thank you, sir.
All righty. Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of questions. When the fire department goes out and writes a citation on a rental property, do they report that to the crime-free housing?
Absolutely. Right, Tom?
We don't, right? The only thing we give any kind of warning of is for business inspections. We don't do anything with.
No. You were out in my neighborhood Saturday night for an illegal burn.
Oh, for a burn, not.
And that is a rental house.
Look, that's reported to the dispatchers, put into the CAD.
And the dispatchers now would send that, they know now that would automatically get filtered to the crime-free housing report.
For this landlord, because there's been problems there, the police have been there.
With the new system, the new computer system, that would all be tracked. Correct,
So
Chief?
it's going to the crime-free housing, though.
We forward it on. So where they go, we check them.
Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Next
Miscellaneous.
question.
Yes, ma'am. Oh.
I wanted to talk about another agreement that I found that's not in compliance. I don't know how far you want me to go into this. Do we have to go into executive
I would
session?
suggest maybe, since any of these agreements that don't get followed can be litigation, I would suggest you save that for executive session. And if Garrett tells us when we get going that we can't talk about it, then I'll allow you the privilege to come back out in regular session to continue. But I think for the sake of protecting ourselves, if it's something that's potential litigation, which these could be, I think we should do an executive session.
But until it is litigation, I think the public has a right to know, here we go again, public money was used for these agreements and they're broken.
Could we?
If your train of thought is going to lead toward probable or imminent litigation, for instance, if you were going to suggest or recommend that the council institute litigation, I would suggest that to that extent that you have these communications in an executive session.
And let's take it one step further. Sometimes the staff might be able to, because I don't know which 2 or 3 you're talking about now. I don't have any idea.
Am I allowed to say now?
No, hang on. I would suggest we do an executive session because there might be simple answers, but all of a sudden we put this business's name out there as if they're on some list of ours, and it's something that can be cleared up, maybe very innocently and very simply. I think, a phone call to my office or in executive session, I think would be the place to start. If you don't get the satisfaction then, I think it's fair game for the open session at a point after that.
Well, okay, let's take for instance, Mr. Silsby brought up wanting to know why I got this email from Charter. Believe me, I did not send it to Charter. And for Rich Peppers to turn my name into Charter and for it to come back like that, I sent the email to you. You didn't answer the email. You must have gave the email to Rich Peppers and Rich Peppers did it to Charter.
I'll be real perfectly honest with you, Alderman Schneider. In the last week or two, my office has been a buzz of emails, people standing in line, phone calls, and I do know the day that they handed me the email, Rich Peppers and other staff people were standing there, and I just simply said, can you give me some information on this? Now, could I have handled that better? Yeah, and I agree with Alderman Silsby. These responses should be made to the entire council. So I will accept responsibility for what probably was an awkward response with your name on it. However, it's not intentional. It wasn't to single you out. You had just made the call to my office or the email to my office, and I was trying to do my job and take action as quick as I could. As of when I came in here Monday on my day off, or our day off here, my stack of emails was this high. And that was just from a couple days. And the phone list usually each night is probably 2 to 3 pages. So it's true, I cannot call everybody back or respond to emails in the same day. So if you really need something urgent, like most of you do, they pick up and call me on my cell. They first courtesy would try to call one of my assistants, and I usually always take an Alderman's phone call throughout the day at any time. Very seldom unless I'm with, certain clients or certain attorneys or different things going on. But the emails, while they're wonderful, they pile up, and there's many of them. I get a large amount of emails. Okay? Yes, sir.
Your Honor, on this issue, shouldn't this go back to Economic Development and Annexation Committee? Because that's where it started. We're talking about always going back to committees. Maybe it should go back to the committee, and the committee go to that because we're the ones that approved it to begin with. That way we have an opportunity
I would agree
to take a look
with you.
at it.
I would agree with you, Alderman Sisby. And some of these things I think that were on here tonight probably could have gone back to some of the committees. But I think I answered most of them. Is there any, Alderman Schmidt?
Okay, going back on Charter, I just had a couple questions about that. If Charter is the problem, if Charter, we could kick them out or take them out of the picture, could Lindenwood with the city still broadcast the meetings now online? And the other question with that is, maybe I missed this, is if Charter's gonna have this Belleville government access channel, only paying Charter customers will be able to watch it. It won't be available to anyone with like DirecTV or any satellite company or AT&T.
I guess that's the case, but Charter had this grant available, which saved us a tremendous amount of money for startup, okay? Lindenwood partnered with Charter in creating this studio. That was another part that, you know, just kind of fell together. I do believe that, and they're still going to have the ability, I think soon or anytime, to also still stream this on Lindenwood's network or the city's network or however they work it out, whatever easiest for them. And we're trying to do it where we don't have to have staff people. We can't afford to hire a manager of technology just for the Charter cable network broadcasting of things. So we're trying to do this in a very frugal but effective way. That's part of the reason we're being patient with Charter, because Charter and Lindenwood are paying for them. Now, Rich Peppers has agreed to come in here, and he's salaried, and he's agreed to come in here and help film this partly out of interest, because he's kind of like it's one of his things he's always wanted to do. But also, I don't want to create this where it's going to cost us a lot of manpower, because we're not in the position to do that. So we're muddling through this, or we're walking through this in a way to try to be very frugal and still get it accomplished. I still don't think that we've totally blown this. I think we've run into some stumbling points, but I'm still very optimistic we're going to turn out with a good product and have a good situation in the very near future, and at a very reasonable cost. And that was one of the things I had to look at, because, you know, it's easy. We could have waved a magic wand and did this a lot quicker, but it would have cost the citizens a lot more. By partnering, supposedly it's going to work out. I'm working on that. Okay, we have a motor. I'm sorry, yes.
I'm sorry. Actually, my question is for the attorneys. When will the orchard and watershed study be available for the council?
Well, that is something that's we're going to address with the ward aldermen at a neighborhood meeting, but then subsequent to that, I think it could be provided when there's an ultimate decision to be recommended in advance of that. The document itself is not subject to public disclosure at this point, but internally it can be provided.
He's still researching some of make sure some of the liability that we might have for some of the things. So before we release it, he's trying to get a handle on the city's liability.
I understand that. I just don't understand why council can't see it before this public.
Well, first of all, we just got it last week. The two aldermen of the ward just got their hands on it within the last couple of days, the weekend, and it's a pretty thick document, and so it will be available soon, but it is, I guess, by...
Yeah, it could be provided in advance to you if it's determined that it's going to be released at the public meeting. What happens is, under the Freedom of Information Act, it's exempt from disclosure right now unless and until that exemption is waived, and it hasn't been waived yet. I wanted to discuss it with the staff and internally, and then the mayor has the ability to waive it.
I mean, there's some potential. We're trying to go back. This goes back for years, and we're trying to make sure that we're not. He's trying to make sure he protects us in a standpoint that that we don't come out here and.
Okay, council was part of us.
Okay, but like I said, first of all, we just got it. You know what? I gave my copy to Alderman. There was 2 copies provided. Garrett got a copy. I got a copy. It's a thick binder. I gave mine to Alderman White last Thursday afternoon. He then, over the weekend or so, passed it on to Alderman Seibert, Monday or so. I'm anxious to get that one back because I'm still old-fashioned. I like to read from book form. So, I'm going to sit down and do some exciting reading about watershed study any day now. But I let them have it first because, first of all, I was kind of going through that stack of emails on Monday when I was in here for 5 hours. So, we're going to get there. We got a couple meetings set up. We got a meeting set up with the aldermen and a couple other individuals that Garrett's recommended. And if and they're going to have a neighborhood meeting
We haven't had an opportunity to go over internally with the.
We have not. We have not sat down with the city engineer and Garrett and I. We have not all gone through this yet.
That's contemplated this week. Now, I can tell you that if the aldermen are desirous of one, I could have a PDF, but I'm unable to email it. It bounces back. It's so large. So, I mean, the question is, if you would let me know if you want one, I could provide it, but I'd have to burn it on a CD.
Joe? Yeah, just real quick. I mean, yeah, this topic was brought up there on the Streets and Grades Committee earlier, and certainly there were some concerns there, but as I stated to the committee, being in that role as assistant director with another city and director, it's not uncommon. Obviously, the city engineer is not looking at it from, the engineering point of view. He's strictly looking at it from the language as it relates to the liability of the city, and this is a common thing and a good thing that's being done, and I support that.
We've been very patient till we got the study. Now we got to be patient to make sure that Garrett gets a chance to make sure, because a lot of these things that were decided long before I was mayor, or back in the beginning of the subdivision and some of the agreements. There was all different kinds of participants, from associations to the land developer and all these different things. And there's a lot of moving parts here. And we don't want to get out there and put the city, we talk about taxpayers, we talk about accountability to taxpayers in some of these agreements. We have the responsibility right now to do our due diligence to make sure, now that we got the document, that we don't jeopardize our taxpayers and put us in a situation where we're out there on a hook for something we shouldn't be.
I am not arguing against that at all. I'm simply saying include the county.
As soon as we can, we will.
I have a question for you. Is there any public limitation on access to department heads?
I think I told you from the beginning of the time when we first had orientation. The department heads are very, I think, very open and very good about meeting with any and all aldermen. Now, I think you have to be very...
No, public access, not aldermen access.
Public access meaning demanding signing them up for meetings?
No, I mean, if a member of the public calls or comes in and asks to speak to a department head, are there any limitations on that?
Well, okay, let's put it this way. My department heads have never, ever, to my knowledge, ever refused to try to have conversations. But there are some people that come into certain departments weekly, numerous times a week. And they have they cannot get some of their work done, and they have told me that. So, yeah, I think there are some, I've recommended, the department heads have things that they have to do. If they don't do them, their boss, and ultimately you all as the governing body, are going to be disappointed with these folks if they don't get their work done. They've only got so much staff to back them up, and there are been a few cases, the first time I've seen in 15 years, where there are some people from the public who are in certain departments almost on a daily basis. And it becomes, it's hard for them to get their normal work done and their responsibilities to the whole city when there's a few that take an enormous amount of their personal attention. So my direction to them is, do your job, continue to be, kind and just, but I don't expect them to give the same person or persons carte blanche of their time and to come in and sit down in the office or camp out each and every day. That's not fair. So we finally addressed, after many weeks, and we all agreed on the civility. We may have to eventually, and we also agreed on that only employees can be in certain parts of the offices and on computers and in the vaults and all those things. We've addressed that. But those things also go for certain offices. I mean, somebody just can't come in and camp out as a non-employee. These guys have jobs to do. And I'll tell you, there's not a department head that I know of that's working less than 40 hours. Most of them are working more between 40 to 60 hours a week. And in some cases, it exceeds that. So I think it's only fair that we give them fair space and not just totally take over their time. And I hope that's answered your question. Okay, motor fuel claims. Ask for a motion to approve the motor fuel claims in the amount of $19,623.91. Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman Lillian. It's been a long night. Alderman, you made a second, I take it, or do you have a comment?
I was gonna make it first, but second time.
Well, you know, the dean of the council here of 30 years always makes the motor fuel claims, I recognize that. So Alderman Seibert got the motion, you got the second. Do I have any discussion on the motor fuel claims? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Ridgewood. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orland. Schneider.
Aye.
Motion carries. I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose to discuss. I'm sorry. Okay, I gotta say this, please, let me say it though. For the purpose to discuss personnel, litigation, and property acquisition. Motion by Alderman Schmidt, do I hear a second? Second by Alderman White, to hear discussion. All in favor of going into executive session? There's some staff I need to stay. Let me think for a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? I want you back in here at 10 after so we can get going. That's about 8 minutes.
How are you? I'm Bill Green.
Jim Schneider?
Joy.
Could you bring that folder up? I'd like to know what you're on your mind, but we might want to go to executive session first instead of laying them out there in front of the press and everything. Especially if we can answer some questions for you, you know. We're trying to be business friendly, so we want to be careful. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in open session, and as stated on tonight's agenda, we have a resolution here. 3170? Okay, I ask for a motion to approve or read by title only, Resolution 3170 is related to property acquisition. Motion by Alderman Seibert, second by Alderman White, to approve Resolution 3170 by title only. By title only. All in favor of that signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, read by title only, motion to approve. Here it is right here. You want to read, Garrett? Give my hand here. Keep jotting that down.
You want me to read it?
A resolution authorizing the purchase of real estate.
No, there's
Okay. Now, and for the sake of public, it's a piece of property that was brought to our attention that we believe we could use for parking. It's a lot that's 40 foot by 140 feet at the corner of South Charles and East Washington. And it will allow us to, after purchase and closing, to clear off some of the vehicles and stuff that's been parked on there for a long time. And also in this agreement, we will have the option to buy the second parcel when the owner is ready to sell it. And the purchase of this is for $25,000. So we have a do we have now, we get the motion right there.
You gotta make a motion.
We got a motion and a second? Same two gentlemen, Seibert and White, make the motion to purchase the property as just explained in the resolution for $25,000. Any questions? Roll call.
Heisler.
Aye.
Holt. Schmidt. Ridgewood. Randall. Anthony. Davidson. Sillsby. Hayden. Seibert. White. Musgrove. Orland. Schneider.
Motion carries. Motion to adjourn. Motion. Oh, okay. Sit down, please, a second. Based upon the personnel report that was given in executive session, does anyone have any motions that would come from that? Or
Will we adjourn?
Motion by Alderman Hayden, second by Alderman Schmidt. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're adjourned. At 9:40.